Namaskar. I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive online training on Instructional Design for Techno-Pedagogy Integration. You are watching us live on PM eVidya channels 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube handle NCERT Official. This training program is brought to you by Central Institute of Educational Technology, that is CIET NCERT, in collaboration with SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. Today we are in last day, that is day 5 of the training session, where the topic that we are taking up is Instructional Design for Adaptive and Personalized Learning Systems. We all know that it's a 5-day, 5-hour online training program where there is going to be an assessment as well. So if you are watching all our sessions very carefully, let me remind you that today, once the session gets over, assessment courses will be released. If you wish to attempt them and you score more than 70%, you will be granted a certificate that you can download from Diksha portal. You all are requested to kindly log on to our CIET website for more guidelines and instructions on the same. If you wish to participate in the session with your questions, suggestions and feedback, please feel free to do that. Our phone number is 8800440559. Our email ID is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in, and on our YouTube handle NCERT Official, you can send us your questions, suggestions and of course your feedback. Now let me make a polite request to all of you. Please do not mark your attendance in the live chat box but ask relevant questions. To throw light on day 5 topic, which is Instructional Design for Adaptive and Personalized Learning System, we are joined by our expert Dr. Biju K. Sir is Assistant Professor from Department of Education, Central University of Tamil Nadu. Sir, Namaskar and very warm welcome to you.
Namaskar.
Right. Sir, I request you to kindly apprise us all about the main points that you will be covering in the session, and whatever questions we will be receiving from the viewers, we will take them up in the end.
Fine. So, in this session, I will be taking about adaptive learning system, personalized learning system, and how exactly the instructional design has to be, or what are all the instructional design consideration when a teacher is preparing for an adaptive and personalized learning system. So obviously there would be some clarity needed on what is adaptive learning system, what is personalized learning system. So I'll be talking about these, and as well as some of the component of instructional design, so that you will be successful in preparing the adaptive as well as personalized learning system.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that brief overview with us. Now I request you to kindly go ahead with your presentation, sir.
Fine.
All yours.
Fine.
Thank you.
So, very good evening, viewers. I hope you have gone through the other sessions. Now, in front of you, I'll be presenting maybe a concept map, which would be so vast for you to understand, but as a wrap up of what we have learned maybe last 4 days, this would give you a gist of it. You have understood what is techno-pedagogy, what is instructional design, and when you are talking about instructional design as well as the techno-pedagogy, we cannot forget about the learning. At the outset, our focus is improving the learning of our learners. So obviously when you are talking about learning, there are certain learning theories, there are certain approaches what our teachers are following, like behaviorism, constructivism, constructionism, cognitivism, social learning. So whatever approach you follow, you intend to enhance the learning of the learners. And when you are intending to enhance the learning, obviously we need to have a planning. You may call it as a lesson planning, unit planning, whatever it may be. All these need to have some idea about how do we design it, how do we design the instruction, what do I transact in the classroom. So obviously this would give a broad overview of how exactly the learning theories are connected with the different models of instructional design. Whereas our interest is not going again back to what we have gone through. Our interest is basically on adaptive learning. Now, we might have heard about the term adaptive learning. How best as a teacher, how I make use of these adaptive learning strategies. Adaptive in the sense allowing the students to cope up with whatever changes in terms of their learning needs, in terms of the instructional need of the teacher. So adaptive learning is basically is an interactive method. You are familiar with the different methods of teaching, lecture method, demonstration method, heuristic method. There are different methods of teaching. Now, when you focus on adaptive learning, it's basically interactive in nature. You make sure there is maximum participation or involvement or engagement of the learners. Now, how is it possible? Generally, most of us as teachers, we know that nowadays the interest of the students, the attitude of the students are all challenging in the classroom because they are all exposed to different resources, exposed to different gadgets. So these are all some of the reasons. So how can we make it more interactive so that there is participation or more collaboration through which the learners can learn better? And this is possible nowadays very easily through the computers or through technology. Now, when you look for the support of technology, what are you looking for? You are looking to maximize the learning, and wherever possible, you would like to support every individual. So in that way, the adaptive learning is an interactive method which support the learners to design, decide, and follow up their own learning paths. And later on, we will look into what is personalized learning. So in an adaptive learning, as I told, it is an interactive one. The learning path, effective feedback, supplementary resources, all these are more important. Most of the time, the teachers say that we are not able to provide all this. What is a learning path? A student understand how much I am able to participate in a learning environment or in a learning experience. Why I am not able to participate? How can I participate better? Where can I get the support? When I do something, what kind of feedback I get? What supplementary materials I need personally, because every individual, every learner may require different types of resources. You may remember about the learning style consideration. So when you consider learning style, you know that different learners prefer different learning resources. So adaptive learning is looking for preparing your teaching learning such a way that every individual is able to come up with their own learning pathway or their own learning milestone. They know how exactly, where exactly I would like to move. When I say where exactly I would like to move, my teachers would be thinking about the learning outcome. Yes, we have the backup or the background of learning outcome. So we design the learning outcome. We are well informing the students so that the student come to know, okay, this is my target. In order to achieve this target, what path I can follow, what kind of support system I need. This is what actually an adaptive learning means. Now, what are the different steps that a teacher can follow? Maybe this may not completely fit into the different instructional design models what you have learned, but you know that in any of the instructional design model, we say that the learner need to be known. The teacher should know who are my learners, what are their capacities, what are their previous experiences, what are their minimum level of performances, and the content need to be known. So in that way, if you look at coming to the adaptive learning design, identify the small knowledge unit. This is more important. You may have a complete unit. Rather going for the complete unit, you split it into small knowledgeable unit. The small units which the student can participate, the student can attempt, so that the student either will have the feeling of success or the student will have a feeling of a challenge. Those students who are having the feeling of success obviously will try to go with the next small units. So within the unit, if the teacher can identify which has to be presented first, maybe following the simple to complex, known to unknown kind of axioms, you can keep it in mind. So identify the small knowledge units, develop assessment and feedback. In order to develop the assessment and feedback, obviously one point missing here is experiences. How do you present that? In what way you represent that particular small knowledge unit? Are you going to present it as an image? Are you going to present it as a video, or as an audio, or as an animation, or it may be an interactive content as well? When you present that, what kind of assessment and what kind of feedback? Because when you do the assessment, obviously you're going to give the feedback. So these two are also very crucial in any of the adaptive learning system. And then design an adaptive learning path. An adaptive learning path can be designed by the teacher and suggest to the students, you try step 1, step 2, step 3, so that you will be able to complete the task. And while completing the task, yes, I have my assessment to support you. I will provide you the necessary feedback so that you can achieve each milestone one by one with the feeling that you are succeeding in learning, so that the learners would be understanding what is their progress. It gives them a kind of self-analysis and a self-correction. So if you see this as the steps, what are the best practices? Right? For adaptive learning to happen, it's recommended to select an adaptive learning platform. Because most of the time the teachers feel that, how do I do this in the classroom? Is it possible? Because I have the time constraint, I have the curricular overload constraint. So how do I do that? So if you have a learning management system or a specific platform, there are certain platforms available, but most of them are not free to access. But I would suggest you can try Moodle as a learning management system, or Google Classroom as a support system, or Canvas Instructor, which is another open LMS available. So you can have this platform wherein you can organize your plan. Like what we have discussed in the earlier slide, that you simplify the knowledge, present in variety of forms. Because the teachers may feel that, sir, if I design something for somebody, how do I design something for the other person? So what actually we can do, some of you might have experienced this as an example, adaptive learning platform. Some of you might have taken some open courses or MOOCs. What actually that MOOC do, they will go for a pre-assessment. When you do the pre-assessment, they will come to know what is your level. According to your level, the course will get customized. This is what actually the adaptive platform supports. You understand the entry behavior or entry level of the learner, what is their previous knowledge, how much they know, how much they will be able to perform, and accordingly, whatever course I have designed, it can get aligned with the course objectives, and it may be able to select the appropriate representation of the content, so that different students will have different content presented, but the content would be same, the different representation of the content would be available to them, so that according to their interest, according to their taste, according to what they have given in the pre-assessment, they will be able to see the learning path, and they can pass through the learning milestones. And here the teachers need to clearly set the expectation. What is the expected? See, for example, once the student is completing the pre-survey, now the platform or whatever support system I have, it provides them a badge. A student who is getting a badge obviously get motivated to try what is next. So like this, the teacher can clearly express the expectation for the course, and also the process, what process you are going through, what will be the different process. You may get some material to read, you may get some material to access, maybe in terms of a video or in terms of a simulation. Sometimes some teachers say that, okay, there is something laboratory based content I am providing. So I will provide them some learning material which is in a simple language, and in order to make them better clear about the concept, I can provide maybe a video or a simulation so that they can actually work with that. So the kind of path they are following, the kind of process they are expected to, this also can be provided, and the teachers need to be clear about the learning analytics provided by the adaptive learning tool. Some of you may be familiar with the term learning analytics. It's so simple for us to understand. I'm not going to the more technical detail. Learning analytics says that, for example, I have a Google Classroom. I have added one or two resources for them to read. Then I have provided a video. Then after that, I'm adding a small assessment. Right. Now, Google Classroom may not be providing the kind of analytics what you need, but Moodle kind of platform, they actually give how much time a particular student spent on a resource, how much time on that particular video. So this itself may be giving me an idea as a teacher. Some students are spending more time over the content, so there is some problem with the content. Some students are getting stuck. They are repeatedly going back to some of the content in order to perform the task. That means some of the students are getting stuck. Some of the students are able to do, maybe within no time they may complete the assignment. So this also give me. So basically this learning analytics by the platform would be an input for the teacher to decide upon. It's basically a data driven, and the teacher can take the decision in the further designing. Now coming to the personalized learning. Adaptive learning, I have mentioned, adaptive learning, you allow the students to adapt according to their interest, according to their style of learning, according to their attitude, according to what they can do. Now, if I give everything for the students to decide, now you may think that how it will be possible, what would be the control by the teacher, how exactly the teacher intervene. Sometimes the teachers may feel that self-learning has got its own problems. Peer learning has got its own problem, because sometimes the student may be understanding in a different way. Like what we know that they may develop a misconcept. So adaptive learning maybe in a regular classroom or in a conventional classroom without using any other technique may not be so easy. But even you can try different method, maybe using different technology tools, even the chart, flipbook kind of thing are also possible. But since most of our teachers are so well versed in different technology platform, different technology tools, it will be easy. Now we will look into the personalized learning. What is personalized learning? Personalized learning, it is a methodology which factors the learner's strength, need, personal interest, and learning goals into the learning environment. You allow the learner to go ahead or progress in the learning based on his or her strength. Allow the learner to understand what is the need. Now, understanding the learner's need is very, very crucial. But most of the time, the teachers believe that I have a learning outcome based on maybe the curriculum which is offered. I have certain learning outcomes and the students are supposed to achieve those learning outcomes. There can be a compulsion. Rather the compulsion, you can have the discussion. The teachers can have the discussion about the expectation in terms of learning outcome and whether it is matching with their learning needs. Now, how do I know their needs? Simply in the morning, if I go to the classroom and I say that, okay, you're going to learn about lenses. Obviously, the students are going to ask, why do I need to learn about lenses? So here it comes, the teacher present the content or present the content in terms of a scenario or in terms of an issue or in terms of a problem or even in terms of a case. You may remember basically the experiential learning technique or approach would be supportive here. You present some content before the student as a problem. They have to feel it as a problem, or you have to sensitize the learners to understand there is some problem, yes, which I have to understand. I am getting stuck. For example, how many of you have struggled maybe while driving, maybe riding your cycle and turning, maybe a very curvy turning. Have you ever experienced any problem? While the discussion is getting developed, obviously the students may come to say that we had some problem, but because of some mirror kind of thing or some lens kind of thing is fixed there, so that even I can see without turning, I can see what is happening the other side. What is this? How is it working? So the teacher adds to those questions so that the students try to know better. And obviously the personal interest and learning goals. So when you put all these together, you are actually helping the learner to understand what do I want to know, what I know, and what I have to learn further. That is also important, because once a learner completes something, the students feel that, okay, I have done it, what next? So there is something called extending the learning trajectory. Now, if you are planning to design a personalized learning system, what are all the factors important? One is the learner profile. Like in adaptive learning also I have mentioned, the learner profile is more important. Who are my learners? How much they are able to do? How much they are able to perform? What is their previous knowledge? Do they have appropriate previous knowledge? If not, if the students are not having the previous knowledge, then I may find it difficult. The students may find it difficult to follow the instruction, whatever I have designed. So I may go with a maybe igniting session, or what you call ice breaking session kind of thing, or a bridging kind of session, wherein I'll give them some material to read and understand, or read and remind what they have learned earlier. How much they will be able to do, what kind of participation I can expect from the learner. Are they self-learners, or are they more of a social learners or a group learners? All these can be profiled. Then another factor is the personal learning path. How much they are able to understand, what is their path, how much they have to move, where and all they will have hindrances. Sometimes the student may feel the hindrances in terms of testing. They feel it as a test as a hindrance, but as a teacher, it helps me to understand where do they stand and how much they have to be supported so that they can move ahead. And better would be in when you go for a design, the personal learning path, a teacher need not write it blindly. Rather, you can have a discussion in the classroom, maybe informing the students about what are all they going to achieve, what are all they are going to achieve during the class. So they are clear about from where they start, which are all the points they are going to cover, where are they going to end. Now, can they decide a learning path? What I can ask with the students, what are all the things you are expecting if you want to achieve this particular target, what you want to have, what kind of support system you need. So considering all this, you can consider the learning path, or even in certain learning management system, there is an option called competency mapping or outcome mapping. Outcome mapping and competency mapping are nothing but, as I told, you are going to design your instruction based on the outcome, and these outcomes would be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bounded. So when you have the SMART learning outcome, obviously you can connect that learning outcome with the activity or the experience or the content or the resource that you are providing. So when you map this with the content, I believe that when the student is going through that particular content, going through that particular resource, going through that particular activity, how much that student has achieved. So in between, they need to have certain kind of assessment in terms of self-assessment, in terms of peer assessment, in terms of guided assessment or teacher-driven assessment. This is also possible. So personal learning path is very, very crucial, and how best we can support. And sometimes you may feel that, sir, it's a personalized learning, then the student should have the responsibility or the freedom to decide the learning path. Now, you think about that, whether all our students will have the capability to design their learning path, because most of the time when they come to class 7, 8, 9, lower classes, they may not be very clear about what is a learning path. But if I show them, maybe as a ladder, step 1, you are going to complete step 2, you are going to complete step 3, so that they have a target. Maybe step 4 is my target in my classroom. When it comes to higher classes, they are confused. How should I learn? What should I learn? So obviously, there is a support by the teacher needed. And another factor is the competency-based curriculum, or even I would say the outcome-based curriculum, what we are following right now. Either you can deal with the competency base, so that you map the competency with the content. You map the competency with the assessment. These two mapping are too crucial, either in adaptive learning or in the personalized learning. And most important factor is the flexible learning environment. You cannot be so strict that yes, this is the 5, I will give you only 5 minutes. There may be some students who need more time. And this would be very challenging. Most of the teachers say that no, sir, we are not having a flexible learning environment. Even in your instructional design, you might have understood we need to have certain flexibility when you go with certain design. So here in personalized learning or even in adaptive learning, we need to ensure that there is a flexibility at least in terms of time. There is a flexibility at least in terms of assessment. I hope you understand. Now, when it comes to knowing more about personalized learning, in personalized learning, what approach we are following? We are following the student-centered approach. Student is at the center. All my instruction is oriented towards the student. What the student need, what the student know. Whatever the student know, from there I can support the student to learn. So it's a student-centered approach. And what should be the role of the teacher? The role of the teacher would be facilitator or a guide. Facilitating learning by providing different instructions, different guidelines, different kind of support, different kind of resources, different kind of representation of the content, and also different assessment methods, opportunity for the students to practice. So this is the approach that you can follow. And what are all the different methods that we can use? We can use the project-based learning, problem-based learning, or case-based learning, as I was mentioning. If you want to understand the need, or if you want to make the students a feeling that I need to learn this particular content, obviously they should feel that there is a need. How can I make them feel? We can make them feel by providing a case, or even it can be a newspaper cutting, a news related to maybe something related to pollution, maybe something related to an accident, something related to maybe a high-speed train, new interventions or new ideas, whatever it may be. How do you present that is more important. So make the learning more of problem-based or project-based or case-based. Means all these are ensuring maximum participation of the learner. Now coming to the instructional design, how do you take care of it? Building in both self-assessment and opportunity for students and instructor to define the learner's prior knowledge is vital. As I told, when I allow the student, okay, now you can start. I have created a room for you. You just go to that particular slot. It's like that. I have a platform. I have organized something for you. Go ahead. But if I want to give that green signal, I have to make sure whether the student is capable of doing that, whether the student has got necessary prerequisite. Right. So this can be done through a self-assessment, or it can be done through the teacher assessment. So when you go for the instructional design, analyzing the learner, you may remember about ADDIE model, which sometimes we call it as an ADDIE model. So when it comes to any instructional design model, we have to make sure the learner profiling is completed. And then Then the most important points are learners should have the sense of control over their own learning experience. This is what something very, very essential. They have to take the responsibility of their own learning. If they want to take the responsibility of their own learning, how best I am able to go through a certain learning experience, how best I am able to read a particular textual material which is given by the teacher, or how best I am able to go through a particular video which is being presented by the teacher. Am I able to understand that? Am I able to connect it with what I have learned earlier? How do I go ahead? Now, this control, sometimes we can support the learner. When you go through these learning experiences, please let me know as a teacher what support you need. Where exactly you feel that you are getting stuck, right? And the learner agency is created by the collaborative effort. What is that? The learner agency, because I was just mentioning about learners need to have a sense of control. They should develop a kind of responsibility for their own learning. So when they go with their own learning and when control or responsibility, they should feel it. And how do you make them feel? Through the collaborative effort, maybe through a discussion, what I was mentioning, maybe providing the project ideas or problematic situations, right? So when they realize that, what am I going to do by myself? How am I going to do by myself? So that I am very clear about my path. And then most important thing is giving learners a voice in how they reach this goal, which actually empowers them and involves them in their own learning process. They need to have a voice. What do you mean by learner's voice? It's nothing but learners have something to say. Learners have something to decide. Learners have something to maybe work on. This can be connected with the learning path. If I am providing the learners a learning path which is decided by me, sometimes the students may get stuck and they may raise a question, look at this point, it's not very easy, it's not very comfortable for me, but I feel there is another path. I can follow certain other thing. I provide a video to the students and I feel that most of the students would be able to understand that. But if they don't know how to go ahead, obviously there should be a scope for raising their voice, maybe in the kind of FAQ, frequently asked question, or doubt clearing session, or at least a discussion forum. Right. Now, what is this learning, personalized learning continuum? There is a beautiful material available in the literature, which is talking about there is a continuum. Because we were talking about adaptive learning system, we are talking about personalized learning system, and all these are mostly in the context of digital environment. Now, in the non-digital environment, is it possible? See, the authors talk about even in non-digital environment, you can have it self-paced study based on learners' own intuition, making them sensitive towards why should they learn, how can they learn, what is self-learning, how do you impose self-responsibility, or maybe in terms of small group tutoring. And when it comes to the digital environment, that is where our focus would be. It can be rule-based. Rule-based in a simple sense, I would say, I'm adding in a Google Classroom, if most of you are familiar, a Google Classroom, I'm adding a reading material. And I have a second reading material, but I am imposing a condition there. Based on the first reading material, I have got an assignment for you, or maybe a small test for you. Based on your performance on that particular test, I would decide what material you have to access. or in a more learning management system terminology, I would say you can impose certain restrictions, you can impose certain rules, or it can be an algorithm based or advanced algorithm based. And that is what we may have to remember here. Though right now these adaptive learning system and personalized learning systems are not that much familiar or that much popular among our academia or in schools, most of the experts suggest that when you have this large language model or AI based systems, it may be little more easy for the students either to understand the content, or the course generators or course designers have the advantage of taking the input from their involvement and reorganize or realign the courses. So the personalized learning and as well as adaptive learning, you can have a comparison basically. Because when I talk about these two, you might have felt that both of these are having more or less common component, right? In personalized learning, it's basically, as I mentioned, allowing the students to learn by themselves according to their need. It's a kind of self-learning. It is a kind of equipping the learner to learn by themselves, following their own learning path and their own characteristics, their own capacities, their own potential, their own interest. All these would be deciding or supporting. When it comes to the adaptive learning, it is again you adapt, you contextualize, or you adjust the learning environment so that according to the performance, according to the interest of the learner, the system or the course itself gets realigned, which can be mapped easily by the learner with their own learning path. So both the places we are having the personalization. Now to make it more clear, this is another interesting research report talking about the different methods or the different instruction where you might have heard about differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is nothing but providing the instruction based on the different styles, different needs, difference of the learners. Now, what is adaptive learning? This differentiated instruction, if I have to do considering my 5 or 6 learners, I am having a system, I am having a platform which helps me to go for a differentiation. So in adaptive learning is a higher level of your differentiated instruction, and this adaptive learning actually enhances the personalized learning, wherein your focus is improving the capacity of the learner or the personality of the learner, and you may find something called individualized instruction. Personalized learning and individualized instruction would be little different. Personalized learning enforces the responsibility of the learner, or what we have told maybe in another slide about the learner agency. Learner agency is something more important. They become sensitive, they become sensible, and they become responsible for their learning. Individualized instruction, even I can guide each individual to learn, but when it comes to personalized learning, there are little more component added. Now looking to maybe a framework, if you are looking for maybe the instructional design component that you are looking for, I would say this would be an interesting framework. What is the vision of this framework? It is the personal development. The personal development of the individual. Now you can see there are two ellipses, one horizontal ellipse and the other vertical ellipse. The horizontal ellipse is basically focusing on adaptive learning. Adaptive learning, where from the individual characteristics they are moving towards the adaptation so that there is individual performance. individually I can perform. And this framework takes the personalized learning as the vertical axis, which has got a combined, which has got a union. And when you have a personalized learning, what actually you are looking for? The personal development. The personal development. So when you merge this adaptive learning and personalized learning, basically you are having the scope of adaptive adjustment. And how do you go for this adjustment? What I have mentioned, you are taking the responses from the learner, not only as the responses for the assessment, but also the responses, how do they intervene or behave or participate in the course or the learning activity. Like what I was telling, the time taken by a particular student. Why a particular student is taking more time over a particular content. Why a particular student has spent very less time. What may be the reason? Even you can allow the students to reflect upon. You may get reminded of the experiential learning where you have a component called reflecting. So when you allow the students to reflect upon, obviously you as a teacher you are having. So it is a process oriented personalized adaptive learning framework, emphasizes the teacher intervention is always there. Though you have a ready-made design, you always go for the improvement based on the data what you are getting in between. So you can merge the adaptive learning as well as personalized learning. Now what can we do? The adjust teaching strategies based on the difference in individual characteristics. You may remember this diagram. There is a circle, you can see near the origin there is a circle which consider the individual characteristics. Then you have a horizontal ellipse as well as a vertical ellipse. And what actually this framework talks about, adjust teaching strategies based on the difference in individual characteristic. You as much as provide the individual support. And the horizontal ellipse talks about adjusting the teaching strategies combined with the differences and changes in current individual performances. You may underline the term the current individual performances. How do they perform currently? When I am presenting something, when I am teaching something, how do they perform? Based on that, can I adjust my teaching strategy? The adjustment is happening there itself. It's not that after the class I take some feedback, then I will improve or I will modify my strategy in the next class. It's not like that. And that is where we need maybe a learning management system or a technology. How best I can realign, reorganize the content, reorganize the learning experiences based on the performances. And in the vertical ellipse, adjust the teaching strategies combined with the differences and change the personal development vision. As the students are becoming more clear, because that talks about personalized learning, some students may improve their goal. Like what I was mentioning, based on their success in the earlier learning episodes, they would have more clarification on their goal. They may completely change their goal because I was able to achieve. Maybe in the beginning when you ask with the students, they may not be very sure about their learning goal because they always will have a doubt. But when you go through the simplified content knowledge and experience the success, so slowly they are succeeding in ladder number 1 or step number 1, step number 2. When they reach to step number 2, they feel that no, I can learn better. So that my goal would be better. So please remember, this would be a better, whatever instructional design models what we were talking maybe in the earlier sessions, you keep this component also. Can I go with an adjusting the method of teaching, the strategies of teaching based on the student's performance? Now, maybe coming to the final points, I would say, how do we adjust? Again, some of the research, they give different ideas, wherein you can see this particular spectrum. You don't worry about the structure. It's very simple, where you can see it starts from the first point, content design and resources recommended. You are designing the content. You are designing the content based on what to learn. What to learn, and how do you design that? Based on the individual characteristics. Wherein this particular spectrum suggests that there are two levels. One is data informed, another is data driven. Have the data, have the physical data with you, what is their previous knowledge, how much they can learn. So based on that data, based on the individual characteristics, you focus on the resources recommended and then design the content. Then moving further, you have designed the content. Now what should you do? How to learn based on the individual performance. Based on the individual performances, you decide upon how to present the content so that they can learn. You optimize, you provide the strategies to optimize how much they can learn, how best they can learn. How can I direct them based on their individual characteristics? So you have certain activity guides, and actually the performance or the interaction of the learner with the content would be directing them to specific activities. And if you have a completely digitized environment, it's so easy, because as I was mentioning, either rule based or algorithm based. If yes, go to this. If no, go to this. So this kind of process is possible. Right now, most of these are proprietary or paid versions. So what we can do as teachers, not having these kind of maybe sophisticated platforms, I would say even you can try with the Moodle kind of platform, or even you can try with the Canvas platform, where you can design such a way that the competency or outcome can be mapped, and this mapped outcome can be connected to the learning experiences, where how to learn comes. The learning experiences, and you can impose certain restrictions. Then how well learned. How well learned, you have the targeted tutor in the final phase, that how well they learn. Basically it is an assessment. Basically you focus on the assessment. You may have an initial assessment. Based on the initial assessment, you are understanding how well they learned, and are they expecting, are they intended to learn further, are they ready to extend their learning path, because they might have decided certain learning path which may be of certain length, and they have reached to the end of the learning path. Are they really motivated? That motivation, the readiness to extend further, would be depending on how best you have provided the learning experiences. So you can have the targeted tutor, how well learned based on the personal development, and you can go for the expanded tasks. So this would be kept it in mind. You can have a data driven and data informed. And why I have selected this, even without this we can explain. When you have these technology tools, you think of, when I am providing a digital platform, do I have a scope of getting some data on which I can work, designing the learning experiences, designing the assessment, which may go maybe in a flexible way. So we need a certain system which can give me certain data based on the performance, based on the interaction of the learner, right? And so that you can go ahead with the maybe I would say the adaptive adjustment instruction strategies. Now, what is the role of ID, instructional design, here? Suppose I have mentioned already some of the instructional design components, but maybe as a conclusion, we would see what is the role of ID. The whatever ID instructional design format or model that you are following, I have already given some inputs, and if you want to make it more adaptive and personalized, you move from the static pathways to dynamic pathways. As I was mentioning, if you have a learning pathway, point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, it may be a linear pathway. Now maybe I can decide, okay, in point number 1, if a student reaches, can I provide them point number 2A, 2B? 2A, 2B, maybe 2C also. 3 points are there. So once I reach in point 1, based on my performance on point number 1, can I go to point number 2A, 2B, 2C? Right? Then the second one, from the uniform content to the modular flexible content. Rather, maybe following a text-based presentation, you can make it small chunks of content so that they feel that these are all small learning episodes which I feel I am successful. Then from the fixed assessment to the continuous embedded assessment. Obviously, when you go for the adaptive learning and personalized learning system, our assessment need to be flexible, continuous, and it should be embedded. Embedded in the sense, it should be the part and parcel of your instruction or the learning experiences. So keeping all these in mind, I think you will be able to take the input from instructional design and go to design or strong enough to design a adaptive as well as personalized learning system. Now, if you have maybe an AI-based system or a completely digitized system, then you can follow their own algorithm, their own paths, or there are some systems which may allow you to compile different components according to your need. But unfortunately, most of the systems are which are available right now, which are all proprietary, or you may have to buy the platform. But what do I suggest? Maybe to begin with, you can try with some of these free open learning management system and start practicing designing this adaptive as well as personalized learning. And I hope you'll be able to do better. And Khan Academy is giving a CanMeGo tool. You can just visit CanMeGo, and I was mentioning Canvas.instructor as well as Moodle. These are some of the useful freely available platforms. The other platforms are not that much freely because there are certain registration details needed, there are certain school districts needed. I hope our teachers may be able to come up with certain good ideas so that we together can support to design and develop a platform. So I hope with that I'll stop at this point, and if there are any questions from the audience side.
Well, sir, first of all, thank you so much for delivering this presentation. Some of the questions that we received, you have already covered in your presentation. Also, we are running short of time, so we won't be able to take any of them. But whatever you suggested is absolutely wonderful. I think it's kind of a summation of the entire journey that we have done today, because since last 5 days we have been learning about different instructional designs. So sir, once again, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your valuable inputs. Thank you. So viewers, I'm wrapping up day 5's session over here, where we learnt about instructional design for adaptive and personalized learning systems under the umbrella theme of instructional design for techno-pedagogy integration. Well, with this, I'm wrapping up the session here and wishing you all the best for the assessment. So please attempt it very carefully, and for all the instructions, visit the CIET website. Now, some quick updates for you. Let's talk about textbooks. They are available on Amazon, Flipkart and NCERT website. I'm talking about grade 4 and 7. And now, apart from this, we can take a quick look at the schedule. What's all coming ahead? In a short while from now, you can watch our session Sahyog, where the topic will be small actions that lead to big inspiration. This will be followed by a session on school leadership and development by NCSL NEPA. With this is a wrap from my side. Please stay tuned and do share your feedback in the upcoming sessions. Namaskar.